Was there a point when you graduated, you thought this is not the thing for you?
All the time. If I'm going to be very frank with you, I think about it all the time.
When you graduated as an architect, right? How much is the general pay that one will be getting?
I would say a range between 2.5 to 4.
Are you sure you're so high? I think maybe 1.7, 2.2 lah.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Mr. Money TV, and today we will be talking about how much does an architect earn. This couple that we invite here today, our guests, while you may not have seen them before, you have definitely seen their house, which is the Jedi Temple house that got really famous all over social media. So we actually went and did a recording of their house as well, did a review on Worth the Home, our new channel that talks about property. So if you want to find out more, you want to see the beautiful house, go and check out in the link below. Now, welcome Shelly and Zhe Wei.
Hi.
I can't help but to really dig into the life of an architect, right? Both of you are architect by profession?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
I've done my part 3 and
I've only done my part 2.
architect.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So what's a part 3, part 2? Would you like to explain to us very quickly?
There are 3 parts to architecture. Part 1 is when you've done your degree. Part 2 if you've done your master's. So we call that a graduate architect.
Okay.
Once you get your license, that's part 3. So the AR lah, yeah.
So you are already a part 3?
Yes.
So you are part 2?
Yes, correct.
So you're
Part
waiting
2.
to get your AR, is it?
Yes, correct.
Right. What does an AR mean? What's it a short form for?
Architect, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you also don't know?
I'm not too sure. I mean, there's
It's like
IR
for engineer, so AR for
DR
architect.
doctor,
Yeah. How long does it take for you guys to reach like this part 3, right? Or the AR license?
I would say we start from like after SPM lah. After SPM, say you take your A levels, so you're 18 and 19 for 2 years for A levels, 2 for 3 years for degree. So 20, 21, 22, 23 you do a year out, 24, 25 you do a master's, and then 26 you start working. 26 start working, you need another like 2 to 3 years to submit your logbook. So 26, 27, 28. Once you pass the logbook, then you go for interview and the written exam. Maybe you get your AR 28.
Oh, wow. Maybe I want to start by asking Shelly this question, right? What inspired you to study architecture?
If I'm going to be very honest, it's just by chance really. Yeah, I wanted to study something coming from the arts industry, but I just didn't know what it was. And me and my parents, we stumbled upon architecture. So then we thought, okay, this sounds like the right thing to go for. So I just went for it and kind of liked it since then.
So you mean like you were from an art stream?
I was from science stream.
But you wanted something more to drawing and
correct.
artsy?
Yeah, arts.
And your parents just went, instead of drawing comic, at least draw houses can make money like that.
Correct. That's what they thought lah, right?
Right,
Yeah,
I see.
So I kind of liked it, but to be honest, I was a struggling student trying to navigate through architecture and really understand ways to do things. I think previously I didn't have like a framework, you know, as to how to get to a certain final outcome, I would say. Maybe now it's a bit better, but still it's always like trial and error for me.
I'm pretty sure that you're a lot more intelligent and smarter now.
No.
I mean, if not, you wouldn't be able to do until masters and finish, right? Yeah. What about you, Zhe Wei? What inspired you to become an architect?
I think as a kid, I like to play Lego. I like to build things from like simple blocks, but I can't draw. The best I could draw is like, you know, a stick man kind of human, the one, the circle, the body, all lines, you know. So school for architecture was pretty tough lah. I struggled a lot. But I always thought that, you know, like you need to know how to draw really well to be an architect. I think been practicing for quite a while. I think drawing is just a tool to get your design through. It's not really a necessary skill that you need to have, right?
I agree.
So as long as you have the passion to design and to see your design getting built, I think that's good enough. Yeah.
Right. And so was there any, for both of you, right? For you was thinking about what to do in arts.
Yes.
And for you, was there at any point of time you thought like, maybe this may not be the course that I want to take or something like that?
Yeah, so I think
what's the pivotal point?
How I came to architecture is like what the things I don't want to do. Like after SPM, I don't see myself like doing another chemistry, physics courses. So after SPM, I jumped straight to diploma, doing a diploma in architecture.
Oh, diploma in architecture straight away.
Yeah,
oh,
you can.
That's very straight away instead of like
Yeah.
A
Instead
levels
of
or whatnot, right?
foundation, yeah.
Because I don't see myself doing another SPM, because A levels and SAM is another SPM, right?
I want to ask the both of you, right? Because architecture is one of those courses that I would say many people are not super aware how tough it is and what's the total journey like. I never knew that you need a master's to be a proper architect. I always thought once a degree is done, right? So was that something that both of you already knew when you're going to it? You knew that you're gonna do like the doctor thing where you're gonna come out, you have to get a license, you're prepared for that. That's why you're going to it. Or like you went in, then only realized, and then like, oh no, I'm already here.
I think I didn't know about the whole part 1, part 2, and part 3. I also didn't know like the school needs to be recognized by LAM. Because if it's not recognized, then you need to go for interview and extra courses to get recognized.
Right.
Yes.
So when I did diploma in architecture, that was in Taylor's. Then it was a twinning program that I twinned to Melbourne Uni for degree for 3rd year straight. Just because my diploma in architecture wasn't recognized, the whole degree, the whole part 1 and part 2 is not recognized. So I need to go for this extra course, extra interview by LAM.
LAM is a Lembaga Architect,
Architect Malaysia,
Malaysia.
yes.
Correct. So I need to sit through that test, then only my experience in logbook will be valid lah.
Is that tough? It's kind of like you did your law degree elsewhere and then coming back to Malaysia, you need to do another
Correct. That's
CLP
exactly.
or something like that,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So was that very tough?
It doesn't demand a lot of time. It's just very time consuming. When you come back from work, you're very tired. Then you have to go for this tuition with the tutor. You have to meet her every once a week.
Only meet a tutor also.
Yeah,
Yes.
I meet a tutor once a week.
Oh,
Yeah, in
Oh,
order
wow.
to get your degree and your degree certified.
I think the Lembaga architect, the LAM here, they expect a lot of like technical stuff like the bomba, the fire hydrant, the running distance, and these things we don't look at in Australia. We all look at the very conceptual design. Maybe look at how structure can be quite different. It doesn't have to be like columns and beams. Whereas here they look at more technical stuff, which is also a good thing, because when you come out to work already, these things are things that you need to know lah. It's like basics. Because if you don't know the fire hydrant, you don't know the running distance, then the design just doesn't work.
so you're saying that there's a difference between the degree of Australians or either overseas one
overseas.
versus the one that is in Malaysia that they pay attention to, where they pay attention to a lot more technical stuff. Maybe can we dive a little bit deeper? What do you mean by technical stuff and conceptual design?
Conceptual design, maybe you don't focus much on like the whole technical things, whether the building can be built. Like, okay, maybe overseas we think about a city in a tower, for example, then you kind of think like, what it can be, how will people travel from one floor to another. Maybe you can blur those floors, maybe you can create like, maybe people live on this floor, the working area can be this floor, stuff like that, conceptual. But if it's here, then maybe they look at more technical side, like, do you have a fire hydrant within this thing?
Right,
Whether
right.
the structure can work, and like you mentioned, whether the window and doors are enough for
Right.
ventilation.
Right. And I suppose this kind of law is also different to every country, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why when you come back, they want to make sure that you're accustomed to the Malaysia standard.
Yeah. And I would say like architects also, maybe in Malaysia we are like the master builder, the guy who needs to know everything. Because we need to know like the whole strata guideline, the strata title, the town planning, the bigger whole idea of it, not just the building itself. Whereas I think in Australia we only just focus on the building itself. And the building regulation, there's a building regulator for it.
Right,
So you need to know like staircase, what's the maximum height, minimum height, everything. Someone will check through those for you.
Wow, and this involves you all doing all the submission and everything, all
Yes.
which is slightly different from overseas certain countries, lah, I suppose.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can say so.
it's
okay.
possible, yes.
Right. What about yourself, Shelly?
That's exactly what I went through lah. I went in and didn't know that was same like Zhe Wei also. I didn't know there was a part 1, part 2, part 3 until I graduated part 1. Then I realized, I gotta do my masters, So then I went for it lah. But I actually took 2 years out to work, and I think that's when I decided to become serious lah in architecture, I would say, because during my uni years. And after graduating, I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna work lah, and
Right.
probably just float by lah. After working, I realized, maybe I can do my master's. So then I applied lah. I applied and went for it.
So you came out and worked for 2 years before
Yes,
you went for your master's.
Yes, correct.
Right. It is also during this time that I see a lot of my friends who actually did architecture, quit architecture.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Because
a
once you
very,
work already,
very
I don't think you want to study again.
common.
Yeah. But for me, I didn't do the year out. From degree, I actually jumped to master's. Really.
Yeah, so he finished pretty early.
Right.
I finished
right.
pretty late. Yeah.
So for him, it was already a set path.
Yeah, for me,
For
it
you,
was more of
so
like...
what made you decided that you will go on with masters and make this your full-time career in your life?
I guess it was just more of like a decision-making thing for me. Like I really knew, okay, to be serious in this, to be taken seriously as an architect, you really need to take your master's basically in part 2, as a part 2 lah. You need to really get accredited in that sense. Otherwise, you'll always be like kind of like the assistant architect only for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, until you get your part 2. So otherwise, if you don't get your part 2, you will never be at managerial level, I would say. You would never lead a team. Yeah, you would just be assisting the architect.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of people quit, right? Because I heard that when you go into architecture firm and you do not have that master's degree, you kind of know that you're not going to go very far.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, I heard that there are a lot of late nights, right? I heard that it's not so easy. Was there a point when you graduated, before you take a master's, you thought this is not the thing for you?
All the time. If I'm going to be very frank with you, I think about it all the time. Even today, if I'm going to be very honest.
Right. Then why did you still choose to...
Why? I really wanted to persevere lah. Yeah, I really wanted to just push through, even through the tears and the sweat, and even if I'm struggling lah, I just wanted to push through. There's something inside me lah.
Process is very tough lah. I would say it's very demanding as well, just like any industry. I think a lot of people may think like architecture has a lot of design, like a lot of designing stuff like that. The designing is actually just about maybe 10 or 20% of the whole timeline. There's a lot of documentation. Like you need to spec in your sanitary wares, the tiles and everything. On top of that, you need to do your contract, the whole PEM contract, and then you need to...
Contract also you do one?
Yes.
Yeah, we need
Not
to-
lawyer do one?
No, there's a QS that assists us there.
yeah.
We need to work hand in hand with the QS also. Yeah. So a tendering document is usually very thick. They will specify like the building specifications, like the brick, the plastering and everything. Everything needs to follow a particular standard.
The same question to Shelly. Was there at any point of time when you were working, right, that you thought, oh, maybe this is not for me, man. It's just not what I expected it to be?
Maybe both of us, we do enjoy this whole process.
I do enjoy it, don't get me wrong. Yeah. we are sick in a sense where we find it somewhat enjoyable also when we face these kind of challenges, and when we come out of it, the joy that it brings, to know that you made it to the end of the tunnel. Yeah, I think that's what really pushes us to keep going. Yeah.
Can you share with me, what's a day like in the life of an architect actually?
So our life is actually more of like going for meetings. I would say like maybe from Monday to Friday, maybe 3 meetings in a week. Yeah, so I have to go to the client's office, go for meeting. Then on top of that, we have to give a general meeting to update of our current project, like why is it delaying and stuff like that. Then on top of that, we need to go authority. Now I'm touching on things that we need to get out from office. So there's site meetings, right? There's site meetings. There's client meeting, and also a coordination meeting with all the M&E engineer, the CNS engineer to get the building done. The third one then is authority, so we need to go like
Your local council,
yeah.
MBSJ, DBKL.
Oh, so you have to visit DBKL quite regularly, like yourself, not even an office boy.
No, ourselves.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
depends on office. I think some office got runners,
Then great.
but for us we do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And these things all usually take a very long time. I think like maybe easily half a day, and maybe the place is not near here, right? You can travel like maybe 40 minutes there,
Been
40 minutes
to-
back. So it's half day gone already.
Yeah, Selayang, quite far from here. Then there is Hulu Langat, even further.
Wow.
Yeah, Rawang.
Maybe some projects in Johor, then you have to travel down Saturday, Sunday. They work on Sunday, right?
Yeah, they work on Sunday, yeah.
So some of my colleagues have to go down on Sunday.
So just meeting and meeting.
Meeting, yeah, and going site meetings, site walks, looking at the whole project. The project could be very big. Let's say you're doing like maybe 100 units of offices, maybe like a shop lot like that. And the site could be very big, like maybe like stretch over like 500 meters. Then you have to check every unit.
Yes.
And this will take maybe a day already, because you site meeting in the morning, then you do the site walk after lunch. By the time it's like maybe 4-5 o'clock already.
Wow, so you spend a lot of time in the car actually?
Yes, actually.
Wow.
And we spend a lot of time like walking through the site, looking at the contractor. There's always a lot of issue. Maybe the column location is not right. Maybe just for example, I'm not sure, yeah. So some things like maybe no approval, then cannot start. Then maybe the contractor will look at alternative way to expedite things.
How much of time do you spend in the studio, drawing and drawing and drawing?
Usually it's quite tight. Like we are always given a time frame of like maybe like a week. So
1
we
week
have to
to
do
draw the whole thing?
we have to do the layout very fast. Like okay, so you think
Layout.
of a week, right? So we need to have like layout to do like Monday itself or Monday, Tuesday. Because once you do the layout already, we need to prepare for presentation. We need to pass on the drawings to the renderer to render the.
Or there's another person you don't render.
We do
depends on the
basic one for like
company lah, yeah.
Right.
for houses and stuff like that. But for company one, it's more corporate, right?
Yeah.
The rendering needs to be like perfect, like realistic rendering.
Wow. So it's very often like a sprint like that lah.
Yes.
Wow. And how many people will be involved in one team to do this?
Maybe 2 to 3 people.
There'll always be one guy who's leading, and then maybe
One assistant.
yeah.
Right. So can I say that generally the life is very much you all tend to have to stay back very late during pitching period or something like that. Then the rest is just out of the office to make sure coordination is correct.
Yes. There's always I think the peak period is always like authority submission or tendering part. Because we work by phases. There's always the design phase. After design, then there's authority submission. After authority, then there's tendering for construction. And then after the construction is going to site. So if you see like the first one, the authority submission, we usually have to like prepare the drawings, I'll go through the checklist again, prepare all the documents, you print it, usually sometimes print overnight. I fold drawings, the big A0 sheet
Yeah.
at 3 a.m. in the morning because I have to submit the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we do
So,
all the little small stuff that really takes up time.
Yeah, I think like maybe people think like, oh, if let's say you're like, I myself I'm quite timid and I'm quite an introvert, right? But I find it quite challenging like, in the industry because I myself will need to chair the meeting, and the meeting usually is like for a site meeting usually has a lot of consultants and clients. We are talking about like maybe 20 people on the table. So you have to chair the meeting, you have to go through the items, and if things you're not sure, then you have to ask them, because at the end of the day, I'm responsible for the things that I'm doing, and I need to report to the client, report to my boss also.
Right,
And sometimes the boss may not even attend the meeting, so you have to do it yourself.
Right.
Yeah. So it was a struggle when I first started in the industry.
And you have to deal with two group of people, right? One is the corporate people for bigger development, and then there's the other group, which is the contractors who can be sometimes rather rough. How do you shift between these two modes?
I would say if we are talking about like a bigger project kind of contractor, like we are doing like a 200 or 500 million kind of project, the contractor is usually quite professional. And when we want to discuss things or get things going, it's always just black and white. If let's say you want to get them to do like something like to hack the column, for example, then we need to issue an architect's instruction. So that's like a notice, please hack it. So it's pretty black and white. Yeah, there's no like shouting or whatever.
Right. For yourself, right? Because this is a very male-dominated industry, especially once you go down to the ground, right? How do you deal with it, Shelly? Because you're a nice lady, People will be like, hey, maybe I can shove her a bit,
Maybe I've been lucky lah. So far, the contractors that I've dealt with, so far they are okay. Yeah, we just speak in a very proper manner, I would say. Yeah, so far I've never dealt with a contractor who was very rough lah. So I've been lucky lah. But I don't know about the rest lah.
Now, I want to ask this thing, right? Like, being in a very male-dominated industry, do you see, like, these days people talk a lot about like equality and everything, or like female power, So what's your personal perspective of it? Do you really see like a big difference between how a female is being treated in this architecture industry, or like for you actually not much?
Not much actually for me.
Right.
Yeah, maybe but then again, based on my previous employment, our bosses just treated everyone, the same. Girl, boy, get it done, go to site if you need to. So I've never put myself in that position where I feel like, or victimize myself lah, basically.
Right.
That, because I'm a girl, I can't do this. Not put myself in that position.
Right.
So if I need to, I will have to do it.
Right. Now, I want to talk about the career progression as an architect, right? So, say at the moment you graduate, right? You can choose two paths. Either you straight away do your master's, or either you go out into work. So let's talk about your side first, right? When you came out, you straight away went to workforce for 2 years. What is the general position that you'll be granted, and how much is the general pay that one will be getting?
So basically, once you graduate from your degree, you will be assisting an architect, a graduate architect. and you'll be doing a lot of drafting work. You know, you'll be running around doing authority submission to. This phase, you'll be learning a lot about generally how the industry works already.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And I would say a range between 2.5 to 4 if you're an assistant.
Are you sure you're so
Yeah,
high?
2.5.
I think maybe 1.7, 2.2 lah.
This is
What
like
do I
for
do?
very small companies, I would say.
Yeah, okay,
1.7 is
depends also,
possible.
yeah.
It's
Depends
really
also.
possible.
Let's say you are looking at Subang one, then the fees are lower because you're not a city center. Maybe if it's KL, then of course.
Yeah, of course you pay
Higher.
3.5.
So it depends on the firm lah.
Correct,
But the
depends on the
lowest that you
firm.
can hit is 1.7 lah.
I think it's
1.7,
possible.
1.5 is possible.
I've heard.
5.
Yeah.
Because the intern is only like maybe 500.
An intern, the architecture firm is 500.
Yeah.
An intern in my company is 1,000 ringgit, man.
Wow, so nice.
I'm applying here tomorrow.
Wow, I think I should tell my intern outside.
Yeah.
500, change price.
$500, yeah.
Maybe the rates has changed lah, but this was
But
my
that,
time
yeah,
lah.
our time back then.
Right. Maybe that's changed lah, huh? Right. But today you have still heard about 1.5.
Yes. 1.7,
possible,
1.8.
Wow. And okay, let's talk about degree. How much does it cost? How much was your degree and how much was your degree?
My degree Melbourne Uni that time was about maybe 30,000 AUD per year.
Per year.
A year, 30,000 AUD per
Mine
year
was about
times.
36,000 AUD a year.
AUD of 30K, you are talking about 3 years?
Yeah, I did 3 years because third year degree and 2 years masters.
I did 2 years, my master's only.
So 90,000 times 3 about 300.
Or what about the degree alone, not the masters?
Degree alone, I think the whole course came up to be about 30,000 in a year.
30,000 in a year ringgit
Ringgit.
for degree alone.
For degree alone.
So that's 3 years of degree.
Yes.
Right. So there's 120,000.
Around there, yes.
I'm not sure about mine, the diploma one. I'll say maybe 30,000 a year.
I would say
think,
so
I don't
lah.
know, I'm not sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, to complete a whole degree, it's about 100 over 1,000. Then to complete your masters is about 300,000 range. And this is just talking about tuition fee, not even including living expenses, the rest of other things. So by the time you are graduate architect, you would have been spending about say 500,000 range.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe.
I would say so.
For rental, food, and accommodation, everything.
So literally, right, if I don't go and finish my master, it's not worth, right?
Correct.
Because I'll be only making about 1,500
Yes.
up to about say max 4K.
4,000, yeah.
Oh yeah, but let's say if you just do your degree, you get to start work earlier, and then maybe when people who has done masters, right, and they graduate, right, probably meet at the same pay because you got two more years experience.
But you're at the ceiling and then they are at the
Correct,
base.
that's
There's
right.
a
There's a
difference,
cap
right?
lah,
There's a
yeah.
cap, right, of how much can be because you can never sign off something.
Yes, you can never.
Yeah, because ultimately it's still a degree, professional license kind of thing, right?
Yes.
Then once you finish that, you decide to spend another couple of 100,000 to complete that, and that's because you guys chose Australia, right? Are there local degrees available for masters?
Yes.
Yeah, there's
there
a lot. Taylor's, I think UM.
UM, like
UITM.
local universities such as UITM, UTM.
And
UCSI.
the fee will be
UCSI, yeah, UCSI. Sorry.
the fee will be half of it.
I don't know.
Not really
I
sure
think
lah.
so.
Should be way cheaper.
Yeah,
lah,
way
right?
cheaper
Maybe
definitely than
30,000
Australia.
ringgit, yeah. I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, once you're graduate with masters, what will be the fresh grad salary be like?
3.5?
Yeah.
3.5 to maybe 4.5. 4.5 maybe KL rate, yeah.
Right, 3.5 to 4.5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yesterday I saw on job trade it was like lowest like 2.8 for graduate architect.
Wow, wow.
And it's quite sad, right? Because you see the timeline again, right? Let's say you do your A levels, 18, 19 years old, and then you 20, 21, 22, 3 years degree, right? So 24 you do a year out, 25, 26 you do a master's, 27 you start working, 27 you are part 2 only, and then let's say you apply for work is 2.8k.
Yo,
Yeah, you compare ourselves, you cannot compare like our profession to other people, like maybe an accountant or something like that, or something like that. Because
you're more like doctors, man.
yeah, correct. You
Yeah.
can't say I started off at 2.8 and you started off 2.8 years old. Different because they graduated way earlier.
Yes.
I think
That's
maybe
right.
like 22 or 23 years
22.
old.
Oh,
Yeah.
already?
Counting
Yeah,
me,
already,
yeah.
yes.
You're 27 years old, you.
Yeah.
So even
Oh,
people
really?
who do ID also, they graduated and started off maybe like 3k. By the time they hit 27, they're probably like 5k already, and I'm still at 2.8k.
Wow. And so by the time you graduated and you started coming to the workforce, how old were you?
I graduated way earlier, like 24 years old, because I skipped the whole A levels and I didn't do a year out.
Straight away did a diploma,
Yeah,
and then
diploma.
you
And then
straight
finish
away
masters.
masters, right?
Yeah,
So you
I started
concise it
working
all
at
in 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. In your case, you did the typical
Yeah,
route lah, where
correct.
people take 1 year, 2 years,
Yeah, yes.
and it's a miracle that you still stay.
Yeah, correct.
You know,
It is.
Having said that, then we know the base, but what's the progression like moving ahead? Then now starting off as a fresh grad, I'm a graduate architect. How does it work?
So let's say you graduated like part 2 and then you get your part 3. Let's say the first route is your part 3 first, like your priority. You have to work like 2 to 3 years
2 to 3 years before you can get.
before you sit for the exam. Because you need to submit your case
Logbook.
study, a logbook like that.
A
of your
logbook
past
that
project.
stipulates all of your past experiences, what projects you've been working on.
And you will need to cover most of it, like from the start to the end. And 2 years, to be frank, is tough lah, because sometimes we do the project, right, we design it, it doesn't kickstart one.
Yeah, it
Maybe
kickstarts 5 years
budget problem,
later.
maybe 5 years later you get built. Correct. Even if you tender already, got the cost, right? But if the client decided not to move it,
Then
could
you
be
don't
just
get
like leave it hanging there forever.
Well, then you got your AR very fast, huh?
I got it pretty late as well. I got it like 33, I think, 32, 33. Yeah.
32, I think.
Yeah, because when you do a project, it's always easily 5 years or 2-3 years down the line.
Wow, so you finished at 24. About 10 years. It took about 10 years
10 years,
before you got your AR.
Yeah, to cover the whole overall scope, like from the start to the end of signing the G forms and everything.
Wow.
So to say that you can cover all this stuff in 2 to 3 years, you have to be really lucky lah. Like when you do a bungalow project, or once you step in a company, you're given this
Mass housing project.
mass housing that you can look through the whole construction.
Right, right.
Yeah, must be quite lucky.
So
lah.
here's where maybe it's easier to get your AR if you did, say, go into a smaller firm that does more housing
maybe.
renovation related
correct.
kind of thing.
Yes.
So
Compared
that
to
first-
like big architecture firm that does buildings, right? Because 5 years only one building.
Correct.
Or
And
maybe-
definitely won't be.
Yeah, maybe if you go into a big company, all you do is just designing, you probably never go to site all.
Then they will never get AR, lor.
Yeah, so some companies, right, they could be quite big, and then you only do like just
One
the
small
design.
thing, yeah.
You don't do the authority submission. The authority submission maybe is by another
Done by your
department.
colleague. Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't do your own drawings. Maybe there's a draftman and everyone, you got your own runners. So depending how big the company is. So your first, let's say the shortest one you can get is 2 to 3 years, your part 3. And then you pass and everything, the exam, then you probably get your part 3 in 26, 28 like that. But the
And-
youngest AR I heard was 26 years old.
What did the person do?
I don't know.
Build a lot of house themselves.
Yeah, maybe lucky.
yeah,
like,
maybe you got lucky.
You got come in already, then you straight away get to do a project that is like maybe kickstarted already, like 20% the construction progress.
Yeah.
How many projects do you need to complete before you can get your AR?
You don't have to complete many, but you just have to complete like one.
The whole
The whole
stage.
stage, yeah.
At least one the whole stage.
Yes.
So in a way, we can say that by the time you graduate as an architect, unless you have a very specific, reason that you want to do big buildings, going into a smaller firm where, let's say, they design just normal houses, terrace, restructure, make over of it, will be much more beneficial, right? Because within a 1 year period, I would have done up one terrace house.
Depends what kind of architect you are, whether you are the person who likes to go to site, The reason why the logbook you need to cover everything is because when you go to site, there's a lot of issues, and then there's a checklist like things whether you done a submission, whether you go to site, whether you issue a architect's instruction, whether you sign off a extension of time, or EOT, the delay in project, stuff like that. So they want to make sure that you went through everything.
Right.
There's a lot of details about it, but
Once you pass the logbook, then you are then granted a chance to get interviewed by lembaga.
Oh,
kita.
chance only.
Ah.
Oh, no, even.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you do pass the
If you do
logbook,
pass, then you get
go
to
for the
go
oral
for the
exam.
interview. Once you pass the interview, then only you sit for your paper.
For a written
Oh,
exam.
still needs it for another paper.
Yeah.
Okay.
2
and
papers.
2 papers. Okay, how long will this process of oral interview and
Oh, usually it's quite fast. I think the oral exam usually I think it's like
Once
in May.
Yeah.
May or July. And the written exam is in October.
So if you pass your interview, then you can sit for exam in October.
But the tricky part here is that if you go for your oral exam in May or July, you'll probably get the notification that you passed like a month before the written exam.
huh?
yeah. So you
so
study.
it's September, like, yeah, congrats, you passed. Be prepared for the written exam.
So you'll be going out with your friend halfway. That's why you receive an email. Okay, guys, I'm gonna go home.
Yeah, oh my God, study, man.
I don't know whether to be sad or to be happy. Yeah.
Then cancel your Christmas plans, everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And these things only happens like maybe I think once or twice a year. The written exam is either at the year end or at the beginning of the year. So if you fail one time, then
Wow.
you
Then
have
you
to
can
wait
sit.
again.
Yeah.
To resit again.
Oh, and then you need. Wow.
Until you
Okay.
pass.
Okay. So literally, just that process itself will take you 1 year or 2 years.
I would say so.
I myself, I think I failed the first paper.
Right, so you
I
waited
put my
another
first
year.
exam, I failed the first paper, I passed the second one. Yeah, then I resit again.
Then
So
only
October,
passed.
I think I resit again in March, I think.
How much is the cost of like doing this whole
So it's
license?
not that expensive, I think it's about maybe 700. I
Oh,
think, yeah.
okay.
Maybe
Then-
lesser.
What about the cost of like for both of you, you graduated overseas, you need to come back and then do another paper at the LAM to ensure that you are qualified. How much would that cost then?
Yeah, maybe
Couple
less.
Ks?
Yeah, I think lesser than that.
Yeah.
Lesser than 1,000.
Oh, so mainly all this kind of like very regulated kind of stuff to ensure that you're qualified.
Yeah.
It's quite cheap
Yeah,
lah.
quite
It's
cheap.
more about time consuming and effort.
Correct.
lah. What is the difference between the pay of an AR versus non-AR? Is there a significant pay difference?
Yes.
Yes, and depending where you are. Because I could be an AR and I'm working for a big company, and if they don't appoint me as
Director.
a director, then my AR is just no use because I can't sign the drawings. I need to be a director
wow.
to sign the drawings, yeah.
Oh, okay. So let's say if I'm an AR in a big development company, it may not mean anything because I'm not approved to sign anything.
Correct. It just means that you're experienced.
Okay. So what is the standard range that you are seeing if let's say a person is an AR?
Depends on the years of experience. I would say like maybe averaging maybe 10 to 20.
Right. Then what happens when you get an AR and then you're a director now that you can sign off? How does the incentive structure or benefit structure work then?
I'm not too sure because I've not been a director myself. But I think it's the same thing, like, based on commission and bringing the projects. Maybe there's a base pay, but you still have to bring your own project. Because then I feel like there's a few directors, right? Let's say there's maybe like 5 directors. This guy, and then they get an equal cut. I think everyone will handle their own project, and then they get a commission for that project.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe if this director A just do bungalows, and then all the bungalows is pretty low cost, and I think he earns lesser than the guy who do like office towers and everything.
Maybe you can break it down for me, right? How does an architect make money actually? Now we know the base pay part, but the moment we move on to here, then we always hear architect fee. And the thing is that there are some people who build houses without architect also, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So what's the revenue structure like? How do you make money? How do you all charge? Is there a standard rate, or is it the rate coming out whatever you feel like it? How does it work?
Okay, so there's a rate given by land that we need to comply to. It's called the scale of minimum fees. So it says like, okay, maybe for example, if less than 500,000, then you have to go through some formula lah. They have very strict formula. 500,000, below 500,000, then it's 500 to 1 million, 1 million to 2 million, and
Certain
it goes on and goes on,
percentages
Right.
based on the construction cost.
yeah.
Oh.
The formula is quite complicated. Yeah.
Let's talk about a rough one. Let's say today I were to tear down a terrace house, rebuild it, and my total amount that I have for this whole thing is 1 million ringgit. Right? How would you estimate the architecture cost to be?
I would think it's about maybe 10 to 8%.
10 to 8%.
Yeah.
Eight
So yeah.
Onwards.
onwards.
And renovation is, and there's categories also for the fees. So renovation is one of the tougher one to do, and the fees are higher for that
Oh, really?
compared to doing a bungalow from scratch.
Oh.
Yeah, because when you renovate, there's so many risks. Like you never know. Maybe the contractor hack a beam and then the whole
Thing
the,
collapse.
the whole wall could collapse. On your neighbor or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of existing columns that or
need to
maybe
study.
maybe you hack already then see something else. A lot of things can pop out lah.
Right.
So renovation is tougher and a lot more work to do because we have to measure the things at site and stuff like that.
And you need to work within limitations, basically.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So now we know renovation is more expensive, and usually what we are talking about, is it more than 10% now, or what?
Lesser. I think the max also, I think below 500K, I think it's about 10% if I'm not mistaken. So let's say your project goes up to maybe 40 million, you're doing a convention center, for example, then maybe it's about 2%.
Also, the bigger the
Yes.
cheaper.
Yeah,
Like.
Lesser.
cheaper.
Correct.
Right. So smaller project is actually a good deal, right? Like we can find the sweet spot, say 1 million ringgit every project, then
Yeah,
you
but
can
to
charge.
us, it's like every project is the same process, regardless how big the project. The project bigger is only like maybe it's a bit more time consuming and it's a bit more tedious. But
But
the
you
whole
still
process
got
is still the
to
same, because we still have to
manage.
answer the client's call at night,
Still gotta run authority, submission.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't say that 500K is like the process is way easier or simpler. To a certain extent, yes, but to us it's still the same.
is there a difference between a manpower that, like, let's say for example, right, if you have a 40 million project versus a bungalow that is a 3 million, will the team size differ significantly?
No. So for me, for my experience, I was doing a convention center, and the project was pretty fast. I think we did the whole design in a year. There's a lot of submission and everything, and the whole construction was 9 months only.
And the manpower is the same.
It's just
on the
me,
architecture
it's
side.
just me
Yes.
and a draftman and my boss. Yeah.
Oh, so actually, in a way, unless it's exorbitant skill, generally, there won't be too big a difference between project to project. The number of architect needed and the manpower needed in the team is the same.
Yeah. And on top of that, I'm still running like other projects also.
Yes.
I'm not just doing this one particular project. I'm still doing like other bungalows
Bungalow
also.
projects.
Yeah.
Wow. And like that, each you're in charge about 8 to 10% fee, lah, right? And
Yes.
that will be those minimum charges, right? Or recommended charges,
Yeah.
right? Because I understand that in a LAM, that you cannot charge lesser than a certain amount to protect the industry or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is that minimum amount?
The 10%.
10%.
Yeah, the 10% is like
So I suppose
the rough take lah.
the 8% is about like already give close eye a bit,
no.
give a bit of discount.
No. 8% because it's like hitting 1 million. So it gets lesser and lesser, yeah.
Oh, it gets lesser.
For 500K, maybe it's 10%, maybe 1 million is 8%.
Right.
Yeah, I can't really give you the percentage because they don't go by percentage. They go by,
Correct.
for example,
It's
like
like
a
tiering
million,
system,
Right?
like
Tiering,
that.
right? 1 million, then you 1 million minus 800, and then you plus a certain figure that they will give you, and then you times the percentage.
So let's say like we're talking about a house that's renovating at about 500,000 ringgit. You're talking about 10%, 50K, and you're gonna complete it in that year. So you make 50K for the fees,
Yes.
but this doesn't include your submission, your all those kind of like traveling. I mean
Expenses,
the normal expenses.
No.
Depends
Yeah.
how the architecture firm wants to run it. You can reimburse from the client, like printing cost is not included, and maybe a sidewalk like per trip is how much and how much. Yeah.
But I guess for all this is kind of like negligible already, right? Yeah, it's not the significant thing. Now, so then the question is, right, usually in a firm, one group of architect or you alone, right, how many projects can you take on generally?
I would say that if let's say we want to work, we only have maybe 7 days in a week. I'll say 1 day, 1 project, for example. So maybe I can only take up maybe 6 projects.
6 projects,
Yeah.
Previously, in my previous employment, I took on about 2 to 3 projects at one go, and also like some really sprint, projects like designing a master plan. Yeah, so alongside my existing ongoing projects.
So I would say generally the range of one architect would be about 4 to 5,
I would
right,
say
to
so.
6, right?
Some projects like you mentioned, maybe we'll partner with an architect. But some projects maybe you have to take the lead, and maybe a bungalow one, then of course you have to do it yourself, lah.
Then you have like probably one more draftsman to
Help
follow you, lah.
And
Right.
these draftsmen, sometimes they are shared by your other colleagues also. So you cannot also like drown them
Because he
too
can
much.
draft even more because
Correct.
he's less.
Yeah, and also I want to mention that I think just now you highlighted like the whole career progression, right? For architects, the whole company is very small. We are not like a very big company, like you can progress from like junior to senior. It's always just like you as a graduate architect and the boss only. Yeah, and depends on the company size. At most also you get like the junior, the senior architect, or the associate, and then it's the boss. We don't have a lot of tier to it, like name partner or junior executive, senior executive, or stuff
Right.
like that. Yeah.
So the ability or like how valuable an architect is, I guess in a smaller firm generally will be how many projects can you take on in your plate at one point.
Yeah.
And each execution will be about, say, how long?
Hard to say. Maybe a bungalow project could easily go up to 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
What's the
sometimes.
longest project that you've done?
For me, it was 2 years. Yeah, for a bungalow project, demolish and rebuild. 2 years.
Some projects even like I
Some
think it's
bungalow
irrelevant
houses-
to scale. Yeah, maybe some bungalow can be like even 10
10
years.
years.
Yeah, it started off like I did the first design when I was a fresh grad until now it's still under construction.
Yeah,
Oh, 10 years?
Because the client maybe decided to change their mind,
Yeah.
How big is the
Okay.
project? Like the 10 million, 50 million bungalow?
10 million,
Yeah, I think the cost is PNC.
Yeah.
The cost
Okay.
is PNC.
Yeah.
But I
But
think
we-
the build up is about 10,000.
Wow. But
Square
okay,
feet.
let's say if you're talking about 10
know,
million
square
ringgit, wow, then that's not fun to earn the money also, right? Because
Yeah.
say you're
Correct.
talking about an average down, say 6% by now, lah.
Yes.
Wow, spread across 10 years.
10
eh.
years all.
Yeah.
So another thing is that sometimes as a consumer perspective, right, we tend to think that maybe when I engage an architect, they will mark up on a lot of other things. Like we know this is a very common thing among designers, right? Interior designer. Engaging a designer is one thing. Getting them to get their contractors, they will just mark up significantly sometimes. Although these days the industry is getting a bit more transparent. Is there also a common practice among architecture firms?
As a design consultant, we can't mark up. We have to stand by the fees. Yeah, so it's overall the 10% of construction cost already.
Okay.
But actually, it kind of makes sense also. You kind of look at it because you don't have to mark up. Let's say the cost, right? Whatever the client wants to buy, a tiles or whatever, and then it will fall under the construction cost, and then you really mark up there the 10%. So it doesn't make so it doesn't make sense to go and mark up the tiles and then come back to the construction cost and then mark up another 10%. It's somewhat already like a markup already,
Right,
and that's legal. Yeah.
You charge a fee instead of a
Correct.
markup.
Yeah.
Right.
It really depends, whether the contract was a design and build or a design consultant.
Oh, so it comes down to specification of contract also lah.
So design and build is more like you're the contractor. Of course,
Yes.
then I will have to mark up the tiles and everything because logistics is an issue. I will need to arrange people to take down the tiles from the lorry.
Right.
As a design consultant, yes, it doesn't make sense for me to mark up because I'm not liable for the site or whatever. As a main con, then he has to make sure that the tiles not being stolen.
Right.
Stuff like that, yeah.
I don't think it's about like making sense or not lah. But the architect could easily charge your markup without the client knowing. I mean, but it's
Yeah
of
lah.
course not. It's not.
I mean, these are
legal.
grey stuff lah. we're talking
Very
about, right?
grey. Yes, correct. Very grey. We wouldn't know, but based on practice and based on LAM, that we are not allowed to lah. Basically, yeah, because we're only allowed to charge a fee for the
correct.
overall
Because
construction.
as a client, actually, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, you tell me
also
whatever
wouldn't
number
know.
also, I like.
Yeah.
Oh.
You read through the specs. I mean, the end user wouldn't understand. Yeah, it's the end users relying on us to check through everything.
That's right. There's probably some bad eggs, but it shouldn't be the practice.
Correct.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a construction business. It's very grey. Like even let's say
I like how
my
you say it,
Yeah.
my experience when I was working for a company, like people will approach me like, hey, you help me get this project lah. I give you a commission. Yeah, and the project, it's a small amount, 10%. But when you look at it, I every day working, at this flat pay, and then this commission would be great.
Right, because it's based on a recommendation,
Correct.
right?
Correct. This kind of thing is something that I don't do lah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you never know where it will bring you. It could backfire you.
Yeah, really, we
If the
do.
if the project goes to shit, and then the contractor will tell the client like, hey, this architect, help
Yeah, I
me,
did that.
I already pay him already, a certain sum. You never know, yeah.
It's risky.
So just to check with you guys, so
Yeah.
can I say that this is one of the common grey area that certain architects may end up getting themselves into?
Personally
Legally, we
speaking,
can't because we are only here as a mediator and a
I mean,
yeah,
everything that's when
running
everything
by
is
the
above
contract.
board,
Yeah,
lah, but
yeah.
when things are not above board, is there quite something that you're heard?
I don't
personally
know. Something that we
haven't
don't
heard
talk
of it.
about.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
and
haven't heard of
some-
it lah.
Yeah, and never talk about also lah.
Right, so it's quite cleaner in a sense.
I would say so. Yeah.
But there's also people who say like, that person is at the 10%. At the end of the day, the industry is very small.
There's always that.
Correct, right? Yeah. So let's say this furniture, then have to pay this architect 10%, for example. Then the furniture seller maybe will tell the other architect, hey, the guy, the 10% guy, he wants to get a 10% of my cut and stuff like that. Then the news will go around lah. Then people will know that you are the kind of guy who wants a commission.
So it's quite small lah, the
Yes.
circle. So whenever someone engages in that, it travels pretty fast.
Yeah.
So don't do bad things lah.
Be careful.
Yeah.
So I understand that recently both of you came out and started your own firm,
Yes.
right? So both of you are very unique because I can never work with my wife. Yeah, but both of you work together, right? So before we even go into architect stuff, I want to throw this curveball question, right? Which is not in the script here, obviously. Yeah. How's it like working together?
Rough, I say.
Yeah,
There's
so-
a lot of things like we kind of said, like, we discuss, okay, this is how we're going to work and this is how it should be. We kind of plan it out. But things don't always go as planned. Yeah.
All the time. Just because sometimes there will be like peak periods for him and peak periods for me. And then like how do we then separate or draw a clear line between like your job scope and my job scope,
Right.
I could be client facing and it could be the guy drawing, but he cannot take on too many projects at one go doing this one specific scope.
Correct, yeah. And then at the end of the day, it's just business lah, right? So
Yeah.
if the guy, like, I have to do so much work and then she do lesser work, then do you think I should get paid more and stuff like that,
Yeah,
I think these
correct.
are things that we discuss also lah.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and we still want to keep the company very small, so we have to do everything. Like whatever she does, her projects, I also need to know. Yeah, so
So
then
I
we
keep
can
him
like,
in
yeah.
the loop.
Right. So basically, you
Support
both
each
are a two-man team, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And what is the most common thing that make you all argue?
I think expectations. Yeah.
Yeah, expectations, I would say. Certain things, maybe in terms of like the deliverables lah, that
Right.
make us feel like, you
Yeah,
know,
we'll draw nicer.
yeah,
kind of thing.
correct, yeah. Or why your design not like, you know, of a certain standard, or like why is it like that, you know? So I think, yeah, the whole miscom part also will make us like argue more, I would say.
Right.
So the whole process is actually very back and forth. Because for design, for example, I wouldn't say that I do the whole design or she do the whole design. It's always like, let's say we are cooking fried rice. I'll cook the first fried rice first. And
Or
then,
you
you know,
cook the rice first, then
Yeah.
I'll prepare all the smaller ingredients.
Right,
you
right,
know?
right, right.
And then once he's ready to put the rice into the wok, I also need to prepare and then put the rest of the ingredients into the wok, and then he'll be the
let's say
one stir frying.
Yeah, stir frying it, then, you know, because when you cook your own food, you can't really taste your own food, right?
So
you
then-
don't know whether it's salty enough or spicy enough, then that's where she do the tasting.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Correct.
Oh, good. You all can work together very well. Huh? I mean,
I think there's a lot of trial and error that led us to where we are today. Honestly speaking, we're still figuring it out, still
Right.
navigating throughout this whole entire process.
right.
Yeah,
But I think what really works is like at the end of the day, you know, we need to know like what's our ground lah. We are
Yes.
ready to sit down and communicate. So we are not like really pinpointing like who won or who lose or who needs to have a final say, you know. At the end of the day, we just want to sit down and rectify it, and then what we learn from this lesson.
Correct.
And how we can make it
and
better.
we both have a similar goal, which is to do better design that we did before, the projects that we have done before. So I guess that's where we move forward. Yeah,
Right.
we have the same goal.
Yeah, so how we envision our company is that, you know, the whole process is going to be very tedious. So I see ourselves that, you know, maybe when 30 years down the line, I want to look back that, you know, I've done this, a courtyard design, for example. I've done this facade, you know, it's like a bucket list of that. Then I see my whole architecture journey is really meaningful, that I've captured a lot of stuff. So to me, it's like we want to explore design and stuff like that
Yes.
and tick off the bucket list.
Wow, fantastic. There's like the fact that you met each other during work
Yeah.
kind of helped because you memang worked together in the
Correct,
past,
correct.
right? What's one tip that you give the people outside there if they're couples working together?
I think for me, it's always be ready to be open about discussion and be ready for constructive criticism, and also always be able to sit down and really discuss and normalize arguments, and don't view it as like a negative thing, you know?
Right.
People think that somehow when you get into an argument, you're always clouded by your own judgment. You're so full of anger, you know, or etc. A lot of negative emotions, right, that come to it. So you need to really know how to separate yourself from all those emotions and really like think and really reflect. Like, oh, am I not doing this? You know, am I not doing that? Yeah. So if both of us come together as individuals, as our best selves, then I think we can move forward. So I think that's really learning how to separate yourself from all that clouded judgment.
Right. Before I go to him, right, I just want to ask one last thing, right? How do you 100% split between the emotions of working versus a husband that's supposed to be loving and tolerating with every single
Yeah.
thing, right? Because I hear that a lot from my wife, right?
Yeah.
Like some women, it's not I want you to solve my problem. I just
Yeah.
want you to accept me as I am,
Yeah,
right? And just
correct.
listen to all that.
I think for me, how I do it is at that moment when I'm feeling, because I can never stop myself from feeling any negative emotion that arises from from the work that I've been doing. So I would step aside, I would go to my own corner, I would take 10 minutes off, 15 minutes off from whatever it is that, you know, we are doing, and then I'll come back again with a clearer mind.
Right.
And then I'll be, okay, then I'll tell him, okay, I'm ready for this open discussion. And yeah, my partner, Zhe Wei, would need to reach out his hand also, I would say, and discuss in a very diplomatic manner, you know. He also need to reach out his hand when I'm trying to reach out mine.
Yep.
So I think that's how we've been working together. And honestly, reaching to this stage also, it was a lot, you know, high and low, until I realized, okay, this is not working, what should I do next? And then really, you know, self-improve from there.
I think this is one of the things that I learned a lot from her lah. Like, you know, we can, if things not right, you know, you don't need to shout or you
Yeah.
don't need to throw temper, like, or, you know, I think like before you go for discussion, you want to like screw the person up,
Yeah.
really, you know. You can just sit down and talk,
have
and talk about it. Yeah.
conversation. It's fine. Yeah, you know, not everything I do is correct. I understand that completely. So I think if you just let your ego down, I think everything will be okay.
Right.
At the end of the day, we have that that same goal lah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's what's
I think it's very
driving us.
important.
Yeah, towards that very end.
Right. So I have to ask you right now, how do you become more aware of her emotions and like while being a colleague to be able to integrate the loving husband side in you so that she doesn't feel like, hey, this guy's just my colleague, not my husband, right? You know, that kind of thing. Yeah. So how do you deal with that?
I think there are some things like, let's say for example, there are things I'm not really satisfied, then I'll tell her directly. Then if it happens again, then I'll tell her again. But sometimes I do see her improving. Right? If this is a picture where I think I'm right and then she's wrong, right? I do see her improving. So I will kind of take back that, you know, we always have this idea that she doesn't change. Like you will look at the person and think of her like, yeah, she cannot do work, you know, or stuff like that. But you need to observe the little effort that she make. Yeah, and maybe like take out the whole preconceived idea of what she was. Maybe now she's better now. Yeah.
Right. So don't judge before you
Correct.
enter into a conversation.
Correct.
with
I think
her.
in terms of work also, everyone will make mistake. Someone will maybe forget to bring drawings to meetings. So today, she forgot to bring drawings to meeting. It doesn't mean that she will forget to bring forever.
Right.
Yeah. As long as we improve from there, as long as she improve, she will bring the drawings for the meeting, for the future meetings, and I will see her in a new light. Then that's good, yeah. I think that's how to keep things fresh, right? And always don't remember of her like the one who didn't bring drawings.
Right. Last thing that I want to ask you is this, right? It seems like to me, the architecture career is very much like a legal career to a certain extent, where after a while you made partner, then you're responsible for bringing in a business. If you don't have the business side, then you better be very good at managing multiple jobs, right? That's a very similar kind of thing, and that's the reason why I think over the past few years we've seen a lot of smaller architecture firms start coming up. I mean, including yourself, you know, leaving your previous firms, setting up your own. Yeah, how do you envision the next 10 years going to be?
I think we just want to keep it very small. If we can, just the two of us.
Yeah, a
Because
boutique firm.
once you rent an office, then you need to have employees or 10 to 20 employees to pay up the whole rental
The
and
overhead
everything.
costs, yeah. So we would then be a slave to the company in some sense. You know, you would need to stress about making sure you get jobs every other month, you know, and making sure that your staff are, you know, I mean, you are paying your staff well, etc. So we don't know, or we don't see ourselves like expanding to that degree. Yeah.
Because then it becomes very business, right? Then I guess that I'm not surprised also one day if I have to go to my own cafe that I design one and I didn't know I designed it.
Yeah.
Could be my staff who designed it. Yeah.
Because we still want to be pretty hands-on with design. Yeah.
Right.
And we want to be quite personal when it comes to design, you know, and presenting to our client our design. We still really want to hold on to that. So we don't see ourselves like really expanding to like 50 people kind of company, you know.
Now, before we go into the advice part, here's where I want to ask this one thing, right? Divert a little bit. Being an architect, is there a perks in terms of when you renovate your own house? Yeah, because like I say, every single architect seems to have a very, very nice house. Either every single architect is very rich, or either they know how to make it cheap while looking good at the same time. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day is context, and then you have to call tender for a few contractors. If let's say if I'm not an architect, I'm just a house owner, then maybe I only know like this contractor. Yeah, maybe my friend recommend one, and then I got no choice but to go for him. But for me, being an architect, I ask a lot of people. So I actually tender out to a lot of people for my house.
I think tendering part is still not the biggest problem. It's after that when they send me the specs. Because everyone will write there. Cement slab, 24 by 70.
Yeah.
That's all, right? Yeah. And every single quotation is different when I spoke to a contractor last time, right? So a lot of it is based on trust. Being an architect, does it make it different in that sense?
I guess like what you mentioned, the skill set. I think based on, because we are in the industry, we know what to look at and, you know, what to study. So, and I think we have that kind of experience to see budget versus, you know, outcome. So I think skill set is one of it. Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, maybe let's look at this, right? At the perspective of like, if today you were to be able to meet your past self back then when you first start picking up architecture, what's one advice you would give the younger Shelly? What's the one advice you would give the younger Zhe Wei?
As a student, I think I struggle a lot.
Same.
There's a lot of concepts like rhythms and all those stuff, and I don't know what's going on. And I need to produce a layout that I don't know how to draw my own toilets, everything to scale. So I don't know like how big a toilet is and everything. So to me, it's like pretty hard. So for a student, then I'll say that, it'd be nice if there's a tutor lah, to guide me through everything, or maybe you should start with drawing your own current house layout, understanding the scale of it and stuff like that.
For me, I would tell myself to be patient lah. Yeah, and I would also highly suggest, I would tell my younger self to get a mentor lah, who is somewhat patient and can give me that right framework to design better. Because last time we were just really going through the motions, and them giving, tutors, I love my tutors, but tutors giving us the brief and me just not understanding what the brief was about, or not even knowing where to look for or what to look at. Would be nice to have someone to like kind of ask you, oh, what do you think of this? Like really emptying the entire cup, like we had that conversation at home, right? Like really emptying that cup and asking yourself, like, does the visitor center really, is it relevant to today's society? Yeah, but back then I guess we didn't have that kind of framework.
I guess the last thing that I want to ask both of you is this. What advice would you give to a junior architect, right? Someone who is right now looking at studying architecture or in the midst of becoming a graduate architect, right?
Maybe before we touch on the advice, I would say that architecture itself is very general. You can even do like product designing for like a chair or furniture. You don't have to be doing a building, for example.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would say so.
Some of the colleagues, they maybe look into like lighting design or furniture, for example. Yeah, they
Some
no
into
longer doing
landscape.
architecture. Yeah, some do landscape.
Very common to do ID. Yeah, you would need to be able to wear many hats. If you are thinking of like diving deep into the industry and thinking that you may want to do well, you must be able to wear many hats.
Yeah, and so that if let's say you don't like this particular hat, you can just go on to the next hat.
Yeah.
So architecture is not so rigid like other profession, for a lawyer, for example, or dentist. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it. You can do other things.
You can do graphic design if you wanted to. Yeah, if you're talented.
Or you can be a photographer.
Yeah. Yeah, you could.
Because at the end of the day, architecture also you have to be a photographer. You need to know like which view to take for your perspective. Yeah.
Right.
So that perspective really important because it really sells your work, right? Yeah, to the client.
Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that I have to take a master's. Unless I plan to be an architect AR. If I really don't enjoy being an architect right now, after my degree I can choose all sorts of other stuff.
Yes, you can. Definitely can. Yeah. Gone out and do product designing, like cosmetic design.
Can I say that actually in a way the degree of architect, it's much more about first principle design.
I would say so, yeah. You put it in a very good way, yes.
It's just about design philosophy, how do I start?
Yeah.
In fact, in school also, the degree was like Bachelor of Environments. It's not even like Bachelor of Architecture.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I think you touched a very good point there. I think it's architecture will teach you how to critically think, about everything.
Wow.
So therefore, you are able, because of your ability to critically think, you will then be able to design better.
Right. Wow. This is a very different perspective on architecture that I learned today. Is there any ways that people can reach out to you if they would like to engage your services?
I can just message us on Instagram. We are there. Yeah, we're constantly posting new reels.
Right.
Yeah,
Do you have a company Instagram or
yes,
personal?
Thought Hereafter Workshop. Yeah. Can leave it in the description box down below.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. If you like this episode, do hit the like and subscribe button and share with us your thoughts below, right? Do you think architect is a career worth pursuing? And for those of you who are architect outside as well, right? Maybe you can share with us your career experience, right? So thank you very much and let us know what is the next career you want us to talk about next. See you guys.